Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Apologies again. This normally happens on a Friday night, but such a busy week, 3-game week, 2 games for me. A little bit behind, so we're catching up here on a Saturday morning. We are on YouTube here. If I don't look up there, it's because I'm looking at YouTube. We're on Twitter up there. If you want to get involved in the comments, though, please head over to YouTube because I can't read 2 cameras at once. So we are on game week number 11 going into international break number 2, which is the manager's graveyard shift, isn't it? This is where the managers tend to get fired if they're going to this 2-week period, and one particular manager certainly going to be head of the queue for that one. Fulham have the chance to record the perfect 3-game week. They're the only team on 2 wins here. Stoke and QPR in danger of the evil 0-point week. Make yourself known on YouTube if you are in the feed. Help me out with the predictions. If you're on Twitter, come across, head over to YouTube, and I'll get involved in the comments on there. We will start at the top, and as if it couldn't get any worse for Nathan Jones, top against bottom here. Swansea versus Stoke. Is this the last hurrah? Animation says exactly the same thing Ipswich did last year. And actually, Paul Hurst wins this game last year, and they don't fire him. So, stranger things have happened, but if you've watched any of Nathan Jones' last few TV interviews, beleaguered is not the words. Completely unravelled, hasn't it, there? So Swansea went back to the top after beating Charlton in midweek. They'd had a kind of mini bad run, 2 defeats and a draw in 3, but the work they did prior to the international break really stood them in good stead, and that 3 points pushed them back up onto the top of the table. Jake Bidwell going to be back after suspension, might come in at left back, although Kyle Norton deputised there in his absence. Nathan Dyer possibly back, Kalulu definitely out, so we should get normal Swansea sort of lineup. Fulton and Grimes sat in there, Baston up front getting the goals. Cooper has freshened that front 3, the 3 off the front, so maybe we'll see a little bit of switch in there. Routledge is there, as I say. Dyer might come back for either Selena, Danda or Ayew, but Ayew's looked pretty good and pretty interested the last few games, so may even be close to unchanged. But these 3-game weeks, the managers really do often tend to change things up. William asked, do you think Stoke are going to sack Nathan Jones no matter the result? Yeah, I think they are, aren't they? And to go back to the Ipswich example, I think Marcus Evans would even admit it was a mistake because they won this game at this point last season to keep going. It then delayed it another couple of weeks. As the comment that I think was William said, the confidence is just gone. It's evaporated. They're not playing for him. It's not working at all. And he's probably going to be a good manager somewhere else later in his career. He might have to drop down a level again and do it in League One. But let's just see. John says Houghton apparently has already turned it down. Well, it was a good squad there at Stoke, and there's still another year of parachute payments. And as Kieran Maguire revealed in our finance interview, the Bet365 people have got more money than God, apparently. So let's see. Stoke, as I've said, everything that goes wrong just goes wrong for them. They seem to play well in games and make one mistake and then just completely collapse every single week, don't they? Especially Jack Butland. He's been dropped for the 2nd time now. Federici came in the last game. Does he come back? I don't know. Look, stranger things have happened, but I think what everybody is expecting is Swansea by 2 goals, and Nathan Jones, he's not going to resign, is he? Because he'd be, be giving up probably a very nice big fat payoff. But we expect the defeat and Jones to be fired maybe on Sunday or on Monday. But hey, we could be sat here at the end of the season. He's still there. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? predictions-wise, I've got to go with Swansea in this one, haven't I? It's the sort of game where Swansea probably have the ball from the beginning, and as soon as they start putting pressure on Stoke, you would expect Stoke to crumble. Matthew says Butland always has a good game against Swans. Wouldn't be surprised if he starts. Andrew asks if I'm watching Fulham on Sky this morning. I'm at Millwall Leeds today, so I will be listening in as I travel down from Bedfordshire to South London. Speaking of Millwall Leeds, that is our next game, Millwall versus Leeds, and we spoke about Nathan Jones being a kind of Shakespearean character, unravelling into madness. Well, the king has gone. Neil Harris is out of Millwall now. Check out my video on that subject. He stood down after the draw at Luton, the away end, made their feelings quite clear, and now it seems to be a scenario that everybody's happy with. Harris, club legend, doesn't get the boot, and on they go. Adam Barrett will be in care, take a charge. Leeds had a really good win over West Brom. Did you know the worry we had about Leeds is starting to happen now, isn't it? Because the injuries are coming in, and that squad had really been narrowed down to like sort of 16. First it was Pablo. He is still going to be out for this one. Forshaws' hip just seems to recur, doesn't it? He's also out. Now Shackleton, another midfielder, has gone in midweek. Liam Cooper, the captain, has done his groin. Both of those two, Shackleton and Cooper, are going to be out until November, apparently. So those injury problems that did for Leeds last season are coming back. Yeah, Steve says Cooper 6 weeks, Shackleton 4. This is not good news. So we had Helder Costa started the past 2 games. Maybe Tyler Roberts, he played loads of football for Bielsa last season, comes in central midfield. Maybe you could see a scenario. Luke Ayling's fit now, where he puts Ayling back in. I don't know, Dallas moves up into midfield. You would think Jack Harrison could play centre midfield and Jack Clark could come in. So there are some options, but central midfield's going to look weak. Centre back, you'd think it would be Berardi, typically fiery character. Remember, they've got to cope with manager or no manager. You've got to cope with Matt Smith and Jake Cooper on the set plays against Millwall. So you need to be strong at centre half. Ben White's been excellent, but they will miss Cooper. So the typical Bielsa thing. He normally does the sensible thing. So I would expect it to be Roberts in midfield and Berardi at centre half. But you never know. They've just got to hope that Pablo and/or Forshaw is back after the international break. We will see what happens there. Millwall, as we've said, without a manager there, I would suspect it will be a fairly similar team. I think Budvarsson is back. Romeo didn't play that bad at right back, even though I think McCarthy is back as well. You just have no idea. Most caretaker managers just kind of keep doing what the other manager has done. So you would expect 2 rows of 4 and either a 1 and a 1 or a standard 4-4-2 there. But Mill just got to get through this one. Be interesting though with Leeds injuries. Maybe you get a bit of a bounce. Maybe they try and do this one for Harris. Who knows? Difficult one to call here. If Leeds were all fit, I'd be calling this a Leeds win, without too much thinking about it. Pablo particularly, that's the biggest loss, isn't it? But centre half as well. You'd think Millwall will fancy those set plays now. Do you know what? I'm going to go for a draw in this one because I think Millwall can score. And Leeds haven't been scoring tons. Yeah, let's go for a draw. I don't see Millwall winning, but difficult one to call given all the moving parts in this situation. West Brom versus Cardiff. Interesting clash of styles. Cardiff will be very happy to let West Brom have the ball in this one. West Brom no longer undefeated. They lost at Leeds in midweek, didn't they? You would suspect Austin or Zahor comes in for Robson Kanu. Don't really know why Bilic went with him in midweek. He's rotated the 3 off the front. like we said, for Swansea. So maybe Kravinovic comes in, but I like the look of those three. Kieran Gibbs and Chris Brunt look ready. I would suspect they come off the bench and they'll be starting. Gibbs especially will be starting when we get back after the international break. Still waiting for Higazi at centre half, who will improve West Brom. Cardiff's form and points total picking up really well now. Can they knock over a fellow parachute team here? We will see. Rules apparently is touch and go. He did miss out in midweek, but Bakuna and Pack in the Championship, that's strong enough, isn't it? Central midfield. Back five will likely be unchanged. You think Glatzel will start? I reckon he'll put Patterson in for Tomlin. I think Tomlin might be a bit of an international break. Charlie says Higazi's going on international break to get fit. Should be back after the break. That should lift West Brom. Interested to see whether Mendes-Lang or Hoylett stay out for much longer. I think they've particularly White, the young guy down the right-hand side, you might see him ending up being more of a bench option. If this was at Cardiff, I'd be backing Cardiff for the win because they've been really good at home. I just think they can Warnock a draw out of this one. I think they can definitely score. They can definitely keep it tight. They can definitely disrupt West Brom. If West Brom get their flow and get going, they'll win the game. But I've gone for a lot of draws this week, haven't I? I'm going to go for another draw in this one. I think Cardiff will be happy to have no possession and escape with a point from this one. So we will see. And if West Brom can bounce back, Dave thinks Baggies will win 3-0 in the feed. I'm sure they'd be happy with that. I'm going to go for a muggy, Warnocky draw. John says 2-0 to the Baggies. There you go. The feed is disagreeing with me on this one. Forest versus Brentford. Forest are the form team for the whole division. Indeed, over the past 6 games, I think it's 14 points over 6 games. So Forest in brilliant form. Michael Dawson is still out. Figueiredo came in. I expected that to be Chema Rodriguez, but no, Figueiredo, which I'm sure had played like midfield or fullback or something. So interesting there from Lamouchi. No Jenkinson at right back, but I do like Cash and Lolly. That's a nice attacking right back. Charlie just points out as well that Zahor is against his old club there. John says Forest will win this one, entertaining game. Rafa Mir is back. He'll be on the bench because Graben will start up front, won't he? Settled team Forest, 4 wins in their last 5 home games in all competitions. Brentford 3 unbeaten now, seem to have gone back to 4-3-3. So weird, isn't it? They played a back 4, kept losing, changed to a back 3, started winning, not playing well here, changed back to a back 4, and that seems to have kind of started working. I would suspect Mbuemo, he didn't start against Bristol City. He might come back in. Maybe Kanyos moves back into midfield there, although that might be harsh on Da Silva, who scored a great goal there. Brentford just not scoring enough, despite Watkins having 7 goals. Ben Rama, brilliant player, needs to help out with some goals. We saw him score hat-tricks and doubles and all sorts last season, so he just needs to get going. Remember, he didn't actually start the season. Joel says Figueiredo knows Sabry's system, did a whole pre-season, came in late. Yeah, fair comment. So yeah, good point. And Lamouchi does look very set on pattern of play here, doesn't he? The way it looks, and I can't believe I'm saying this way around, is flaky Brentford and sturdy Forest. And since when have Forest been sturdy over the last few, I suppose, under Karanka for a while? So I'm going to have to go for a home win in this one. I think it will be a low-scoring one, and I think Forest will take it. And given my other predictions, I know I've predicted Swansea will win, and you could see Forest right up in that top 2, couldn't you, if West Brom and Leeds going away from home do not pick up wins. Let's move on. Fulham v Charlton, which is on Sky, the early kickoff here. Mr. Bear says we always struggle against Brentford, love 3 points. Dave says 3-1 to Forest. I saw Fulham in midweek. They thrashed Reading, but it was a bit of a weird one. Andrew says you can never trust the 12:30 game. Neither team seems to get out of second gear. Yeah, Fulham thrashed Reading, but it was a weird one because John Swift got sent off after 20 minutes, and then it was like a training possession against low block defence game. I suspect 4 of the back 4 stage, you might see Sessegnon come back in for Odoi. Suspect the midfield three of Kearney, Arter and Johansson stays the same. You could put Harrison Reed in, being Charlton are so good physically at pressing. Maybe Cavallero comes back in for Bobby Reed. He got rested, didn't he? Did fine. Mitro's now got 7 goals. And Tom Kearney just keeps scoring worldies. It looks like Parker's just freed him up a little bit from being a playmaker, and he keeps just pinging left footers into the top corner. 5 for him. Charlton without Purrington at left back, still no KL or Hemed, who both arrived injured and are still injured. They're still missing Lyle Taylor, who'd started the season really well. Be interesting to see how Fulham cope with that Charlton press. I saw Charlton last week play Leeds, and particularly Cullen and Gallagher were just incessant, all pressing from midfield. And we know how Fulham like to play out from the back, so you would expect Lee Bowyer will go full swarm on Mawson and Ream at the back there. So I would expect Fulham will concede at least one chance from being pressed out of possession at the back there, as they only ever seem to drop one midfielder in and have that big gap, don't they? Seems to have caused some anxiety down at Craven Cottage, doesn't it? I expect Johnny Williams will come back in this one after he was rested. Charlton are doing well, aren't they? But 3 defeats in 4. Tricky one to call, isn't it? Because if Charlton's game plan goes right and they get the press right, there's something there for them. If Fulham's game plan goes right and they get the position right, then Fulham will definitely win. You would think Fulham's quality will see them through, and just the shot count and the possession during the game should be enough. But I think Charlton will cause them problem. And look out for Gallagher and Cullen, who seem to just have fitness levels above and beyond anything we've seen. They just press the whole game. I'll go for a Fulham home win in this one, which would mean the perfect 3-game week. I think we had a couple of teams do that back in August, didn't we? So I'll double check that. But a possible 9-point week for Fulham. And as Andrew pointed out in the feed, that would put them temporarily top, would it? Plus 10? Yeah, plus 8. Yeah. So they would go top if they win. But we all expect Swansea to beat Stoke, don't we? Preston versus Barnsley. Preston kept up their good run at Borough, avoiding defeat there. And we said with Preston, they need to score points away to exploit their home record there. Newcastle might go into Ipswich game on Tuesday. Probably, yeah. I'll try and get done. 4 wins and a draw out of 5 at home, along with Cardiff, gives them the best home record in the league. No Fisher at right back. He's done well to make it to 5 yellow cards already. Darnell Fisher there. Bowden and Hughes will be available. And it seems like Newell is just like playing a different... I'm not even going to say front 4, possibly even front 6 here, because we've seen Pearson and Gallagher and Johnson swapping about in the double pivot there. Johnson's played number 10 as well. Then you've got all these options now. Maguire, Brown, Johnson, Bowden, Barkhausen, Harrop, Nugent, Ledson. They all seem to be game ready, and they all seem to have played, started for Preston this season. So he seems to be playing the rotation game rather well. Alex Newell. Barnsley, 2 home games this week. They lost convincingly to Brentford, rescued a late point. Need a win desperately, don't they? 9 without a win, Barnsley. And they led in both of those home games. No win since the opening day, 3-pointer against Fulham. They'll be without Diaby. Mowat looks good. He's doing his job. Key passes looking very good. And Woodrow scored 2 and 2. So some optimism there. Dave says, Barnsley are the worst championship side I've seen in years. Did you see Ipswich last season, Dave? Deary me. Prediction, I've got to go for Preston, haven't I? Barnsley not playing well. John says, still wasn't impressed with Preston. Yeah, I don't know what that says if they're not playing well and still picking up points. At least you know with Preston, their intensity levels are going to always be high, especially at home. I'm going to go for a Preston home win there. Preston are in 6th at the moment. They could be comfortably in the top 4 with a win today. They'll fancy that, and that would be a great job of the first 2 international blocks for Alex Newell. Bristol City versus Reading. Adam Nagy is back, available in centre midfield. Johnson has used young Masengo more than I thought he would, so maybe does he give Masengo a rest now and bring Nagy back in? I don't know. Nagy's just come back from injury, so Masengo may play again. He's going to get 2 weeks off anyway, isn't he? I was expecting, like most people, Jeju and Vyman up front. He's gone for Semenyo, so I'd be interested to see whether Jeju starts, particularly with it being a home game and Bristol City should have a lot of the ball. John says big game for Gomez. Yes, it is, isn't it? They're on a horrible run on it. Still no Callas at the back. I suspect, I don't know this, but I suspect Baker's playing through an injury here because I didn't expect to see him at Preston last week and he played and scored. Taylor Moore continuing with Baker and Williams. That could be a nice back three when, no offence to young Moore, but when Callas gets back with, nice experience, big, powerful, some good passing ability in the back there with Callas as well. Could be a good back three going forward for Bristol City. Reading, as I say, I saw midweek, not good at all, but let's give them the pass on the early red card. But John Swift suspended. John Swift has been Reading's best player this season, hasn't he? Williams says Reading's two best players have been Swift and Ajaria. Swift definitely in terms of the progressive passing stats, very, very good. Could put Pele into midfield and maybe bring Renamoto forward, but essentially you've got two sitting midfielders there. That leaves a lot on Ajaria to link things up there. Might be a little bit unbalanced, but needs must. Who starts up front? Who the hell knows with Reading? Maite scored. Puskas started. Boye didn't really do anything when he came on. Zhao came on late. Williams says Boye will probably be used up front because he has a lot of running in him. So maybe Boye and Maite. I don't know. Nobody knows. But I think Bristol City are going to win this one, and I think Reading's bad run continues. And yes, doesn't look great for Gomez going into the international break. Williams says I'd start Boye and Maite. Maite is the best finisher. Great goal by Maite, by the way, in midweek. A few more to go here. Sheffield Wednesday versus Wigan. Wednesday, first defeat under Gary Monk this midweek. No Tom Lees for the Owls. Tight game against Hull. They were in it right until the end, but they went under. Winnall and Newell started, but you would expect Fletcher. Fletcher comes back in probably with Newell because Monk, like with Djukanovic, he likes the height and the outball, doesn't he, hitting the big guy. Bannon and Reach still the creative spark there. Goals and assists needed from them in this one. Wigan, 2 straight home wins, little surge in points. Just looks so like last season though, doesn't it? Really good home form, but then look at the away form. 1 draw and 4 defeats. So 1 point away and 10 at home. It's just polar opposites, exactly what they did last year. Pilkington could join the 3 off the front, might still be on the bench. He came on and scored through Lee Camp's hands against Birmingham. I'm just going to base this on Wigan's away record. I'm going to go for a Sheffield Wednesday home win in this one without too much extra thought there. Let's go to West London. QPR versus Blackburn. And Rangers on for the 0 point week if they lose this one. They've lost twice, albeit to 2 parachute teams in West Brom and Cardiff. Barbe will come back after suspension. They went to a back 4 against Cardiff, so hopefully they go back to that back 3, which did look pretty good when I saw them at Millwall a couple of weeks ago. Dropped Scowen into midfield, kind of matched up with Cardiff, and despite having a lot of the ball, did not defend the crosses into the box. Maybe a third centre-back would have helped with that, and it'd be good to see Wells was on the bench. It'd be good to see Wells and Hugill up front and QPR go for Blackburn here. Middling form for Rovers, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats in the last 6. Lewis Holtby might make a debut in midfield. Team seems to be functioning reasonably well. Armstrong with his pace, Dak with those key passes and assists, Downing the same here. Needs some goals from Gallagher up front. And go for Rangers in this one. I don't think they're going to have a 0 point week. I think, provided they go back to 3-5-2 and start Hugill and Wells, I think they're going to win this one against Blackburn. As I'm behind, and I normally do this on a Thursday night, and it's now Saturday morning, Blues versus Borough has already happened. So I predict that Birmingham will win 2-1. There'll be 2 late goals, and that young midfielder whose name I've forgotten is going to score the winner. But look, we'll deal with that on the review show. Check social media for when that's going to be, because I'm all over the place with my schedule this week. Huddersfield versus Hull. Hull in a nice little run here, aren't they? 5 unbeaten, 8 points from the last 4. That's good. Tom Eaves finally getting off the mark there. Brilliant diving header there in for the winner in that game. And where there's Bowen and Grzycki, you can always score against anybody, really. I suspect they will go unchanged. Ben's asked about Birmingham. We'll do that in the preview show. Thank you. Yes, it was a good question, wasn't it? The preview show, the review show. Huddersfield said back to basics, didn't they, under Danny Cowley? We got the draw first, then we got the clean sheet, then we got the win. Does the confidence come straight back? Who knows? They've been terrible at home, haven't they? 1 point in 5 games. Pritchard comes back. He'd been used over on, I think it was on the left wing, certainly out wide, wasn't it? And Diakhabu was on the right wing. Maybe they want to use him as a number 10. I don't know. Kongolo, he'll come back at fullback, won't he? Who knows what Huddersfield's confidence is like? Always with Hull, they seem to start games well, and Bowen seems to be swarming all over everyone. So, provided Huddersfield can survive that first 25 minutes, they could get something. Shall we sit on the fence and go for a low-scoring draw in this one? If Huddersfield are back to basics, you would assume they will file their wide midfielders in behind and double up on the brilliant Hull wide players and maybe get the draw. Finally, Derby versus Luton. Derby controversially returned Tom Lawrence to the starting 11, Mason Bennett to the bench, and then late last night released a statement saying they would be fining these guys 6 weeks' wages. Dave says Huddersfield rumoured out till Christmas. Interesting. And something weird going on with Marriott. Interesting. If you're in the know there, Dave, send me a DM on that one if you don't want to say in the feed. So 6 weeks' wages and community service for the Keogh trio. They're in court on October the 15th, although you'd think that would just be a fine and a driving ban and some more community service, given they're probably very expensive lawyers that they're going to hire. Marriott still a doubt. So the new improved Chris Martin from nowhere, who scored, what did I say on the review? 3 goals and assists in something like 170 minutes. John says Derby got lucky against us and Barnsley are just poor. Luton have a chance. Yeah, maybe they do. Huddleston, as we've heard, has himself say you would expect Matt Clark joins Curtis Davis and Bielik steps out into midfield. The bonus of having a player who can play centre half and centre midfield equally well by the looks of Bielik as well. Derby not losing too many draws here, hampering their process. Luton, strong performance. They always go for it, which is, I think that's what annoyed the Millwall fans in that game, that Luton were going for it, Millwall were sitting back, and, Millwall are the more tenured Championship team, aren't they? They needed a late goal. I suspect we'll see a mostly similar side, although all 3 subs had a good impact. Bolton, Lualua and McManaman there. Remember, Luton is all about speed of transition in midfield, so let's see if they can play nice and quickly against Derby. And I think there might be something for Luton today. I think they can score here. Derby can be a bit stiff at their worst and a bit ponderous, a bit cautious. So shall we go for a draw? Yet another draw for Derby. That would be their 7th in 11 games if they do. Thank you everybody for getting involved in the predictions. Anybody get any questions, stick them in the feed now and I will answer them. Apologies again. I've done 3 games this week, 2 in midweek, and I'll be at 1 this afternoon. Just got a little bit excited, I'm reading the feed there, a little bit behind, excuse me, and ended up doing these 2 feeds today. But my record is still intact. That's 10 reviews and 11 previews now, so still on for, 46 of each. 46 of each, 92, won't it? Goodness me. Dave says we'll have Newcastle next season, which will be nice. Man, could happen. Right, unless there are any questions come in, I'll do my normal plugs. Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. Subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Check out late this afternoon. The review for the Leeds Millwall game should be up 5:15, 5:30. Depends how the South London 4G data is for uploading that, but I'll be straight into the car reviewing that game, so do check that out. This will always be free on YouTube, but I do have a Patreon. Now, if you're watching on Twitter over there, please come across to YouTube, hit subscribe where you can get involved in the feed. I know comments do come up in the Twitter, but I can't read both. And I'm focusing on the YouTube here. So thank you everybody for watching. See you later for the Millwall Leeds review. I suspect, I might do the live stream tomorrow night. We'll see. Follow social media to see when we do that. But thank you everybody for joining in. We're coming up half an hour. Enjoy your match day today, wherever you go in. William says, who do I predict young player of the year? Jude Bellingham. Well, Jude Bellingham's way out in front in that regard now. And was he playing Playmaker yesterday? I think we'll have a look at that. I'll look at the heat maps and that for that game when I do my review. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. I will hang up Twitter over here. So bye Twitter over there. Thank you, everybody, saying stuff and watching in the feed here. And I will see you all very soon. Over and out, guys.